agents on both sides now are really even showing their worth even more, right? The negotiations are coming a lot more into play with this. And I love that. And it's also, a lot of buyers out there thinking, I just want to get the best deal possible. I just want to really, and it's kind of taking them a step back and saying, okay, how bad do you actually want this home?
Hello and welcome to Selling in Idaho again, our another podcast. And this time we're going to talk about
the settlement.
Yeah, some of you may not know what the NAR settlement is. It's the National Association of Realtors. And this has been going on for years. And they finally had a settlement in mid-August, I believe it was. And a lot of misconceptions are when I go into a listing, they say, hey, we don't have to pay the buyer's agent anymore, right? And so that was one of the misconceptions because we have that wonderful thing called the news cycle, which gives us false information.
Fake news.
Yes, try not to go that direction, but okay, we went that way. So what has happened for the state of Idaho specifically is if a buyer wants to come see your house, the buyer's agent now doesn't have to, like all the other states, like California is a complete mess over there, but all the other states have to have a buyer's representation agreement in order to even walk through the door. So what Idaho's done is a half page saying, hey, buyer's agent, you're going to charge X amount to see a house. And so like our buyer's agents put $0 to see the house and a date. So in order to see your home, they have to have this piece of paper saying that they're not going to charge it. Well, some do charge, maybe, to see your house. Now, how does that affect the seller side? That's really the only thing that's changed for the state of Idaho. For the seller side, nothing has changed. Okay.
Nothing.
It has always been the seller's decision to what they're going to pay the buyer's agent. So let's think about that. Where does the money actually originate, right? So who does the money originate with? The buyer.
The buyer.
So the buyer is giving the money over to the seller. So the seller's asking for a purchase price, but the buyer actually gave the seller the money. And I think that's how it originated. So now it's like, well, I gave you the money. What we would like to do is have a portion of that pay my agent and a portion of that pay your agent. So the seller looks at it and says, but that was my purchase price. Whoop, let me just make sure we haven't timed out there. But that's our purchase price and that's what we wanted. So now you're taking money away. So that kind of got to be weird.
Yeah.
And
sticky.
The way this lawsuit happened is back east somewhere, and it happened with multiple brokerages. Brokerage A says brokerage B that we're going to pay 3%. Hey, are you good with 3%? Yeah, we're good and that's called fixed pricing. And so they proved that. But in Idaho, we don't have that.
Yeah, we don't have that. It's always been the seller's choice.
Yeah.
They've always had that right.
So what I do, and I know you do this on yours too, is and here it gets a little weird and different. So existing homes, what I have found.
Your hair looks fabulous, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I'm just noticing. Just as she's talking, I'm like, wow, that's fantastic.
A little rain on the hair, and hey, it's just perfect. I'm gonna go jump in the shower before I do this. So, with the sellers, you squirreled me.
I know. I'm sorry. I squirreled myself. So
my God.
Go into listing presentations.
Okay. So a lot of the sellers say, and I've had this conversation with them, what if they come in and they lowball us? So we wanted $800,000. They come in at $750,000, and I'm supposed to pay the buyer's agent another 3%. So when the buyer's agents call me, I say, and they ask, what's my commission? Because that's the one thing, it's not in MLS. That was the other thing.
Yep.
So a buyer's agent can't go look up your home and say, oh, look, they're paying us 2.5%. They're paying us 3%. Now they have to call me and they say, hey, how much is your seller willing to pay me as the buyer's agent? So what I do is I say it's negotiable.
And always negotiable.
Yeah. And it's always negotiable. And I said, if you don't lowball us, they could pay your full commission. So that's what we've been doing lately.
It's really, it's I think it's fantastic because agents on both sides now are really even showing their worth even more, right? The negotiations are coming a lot more into play with this. And I love that. And it's also, a lot of buyers out there thinking, I just want to get the best deal possible. I just want to really, and it's kind of taking them a step back and saying, okay, how bad do you actually want this home?
Yeah, because what if the seller doesn't want to pay the commission?
Yep.
And you know what's funny? I had a seller that we sat down and he goes, well, I heard I can save a bunch of money now. And
This
so
is great.
I'm not going to, I feel I shouldn't have to pay the buyer's agent. I think that the buyer should pay the buyer's agent. And I said, oh, yeah, we can totally do that. So the piece of paper that we have filled out, I said, what's the most and the max you're willing to pay? He goes, no, I don't want to pay anything. I said, okay, here's what's going to happen. This happened to me yesterday. I pulled out my cell phone and I pulled out the agent to a listing that I
True
had.
story.
And I pulled up her comment and I slid my phone over so he could read it himself. And when he read it, it said, hey, Denise, this is so-and-so with so-and-so. Just checking on this really quick.
I don't know why.
I don't know why it times out.
Yeah.
This is so-and-so with so-and-so. And your house that's listed up in 123 Main Street, can you tell me how much you're willing to pay me? Because if you're not willing to pay me my full 3% commission, we probably won't see your house. So yeah, that can happen because what if buyer says, hey, unless they're paying, I can't come see the house because I'm a vet and I don't have the money, or I'm a first time home buyer, I don't have the money. So we need to make sure that they pay your commission. So when I slid that over, he realized that there's going to be far less showings on his house. So that's where the whole negotiation came into play. So if you're willing to pay us what our purchase price is, and me working with the seller, showing him what his bottom line is, he knows where he's willing to go. And so that's where that came about. Now, flip side, builders.
Oh, builders. Builders are offering some crazy things, some awesome things for agents.
Opposite side.
Yep, opposite side, because the struggle is real for them. They're trying to get agents in. They want agents to bring their clients in. They want them to get the new construction, the new builds, because in reality, they're already out that money to build that home. They want to sell their homes. So they are bringing people in like crazy. What are they offering now?
So remember it's not an MLS. So I get emails. I don't know if you're getting, I get texts.
Oh yeah.
I get texts and emails and they state, hey, for this subdivision, blah, 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 we're going to pay you 3.5%. So what it was, and there's no standard, we can't use that word because we get in trouble, but the average that we found out there was 2.5 to 3%. And what we're finding is that they're like, okay, we're going to go 3.5%. And I'm not kidding, man. That house, poof, all the agents are bringing the buyers.
Vultures. Yep.
So that's something that we will sit down and discuss with you if you happen to want to interview us on where the commission goes and where things play out. But what the reason I brought this up is because today we got in WRE News. It gives me all the real estate pros, cons, and everything that's going on. Do you want to read it or do you want me to put my glasses on?
I'll read it.
Okay.
I'll read it. So basically this is just saying that
a summary of it.
Yeah. A new data study has been determined on the commission rates, both seller and buyer side. And according to the data from Account Tech, the average commission rate charged to sellers at 30 days post settlement. So this is 30 days after the settlement has already been settled, was 2.77%. Which that's compared to exactly 12 months before
the settlement,
where nobody's, it's not even on the radar for most people, was at 2.75%.
So it went up. Opposite of what they were saying, which is interesting.
Yep. Yep. And now 60 days, it's still at a 2.738%. That's 60 days post settlement. 1 year from that 60-day mark, it was at a 2.724. So we're still going up.
Still going up.
Still on the rise.
And I think, a lot of that has to do with interest rates right now.
Oh, yeah.
So the sellers are needing to compete. And how are we going to get people in the front door? Because there's a lot of people that took the election and interest rates, and they all put buying a house on the table, right? They're just like, we're going to wait until after all this is done. So these sellers need to sell. And so they're like, well, let's get creative. Let's give a concession so they can buy down the interest rate, say $10,000 to the buyer. Here you go. And let's pay the agents a little bit more to get them the foot in the door.
Yep.
So I think that's what had to do with this. Now, post-election, my phone is ringing off the hook.
Yeah, it's going crazy.
Yeah, because remember, we're in Idaho. We won't get all political on you guys, but my phone, as soon as the election was over, boom, 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 boom,
Yep.
boom. My husband, this last weekend, I think Saturday, he showed 4 homes, wrote up 3 contracts, 2 homes on Saturday, 3 on Monday. He's out today. He works with all the buyers. Oh my gosh. It's like, and the interest rates actually went up. So that's what's interesting. So I think that there's builders' confidence, buyers' confidence. I think everything has gone up after this election.
Well, and another thing I think it's important to remember too, and this is just a lesson that my mom actually told me not too long ago, is a lot of first-time home buyers, and we're seeing a lot
Oh, a
of
lot.
first-time home buyers. That's like the number one, probably for me, for buyer side is first-time home
Well,
buyers.
not to interrupt, but remember the baby boomers had babies, and those babies are now, was it Gen X? Whatever
XYZ, one of the
whatever the
gens
25 through
is X. No,
35.
yeah, Gen X.
Those guys are the ones that are coming into the market hard and trying to afford a home.
And they don't know any different than the interest rates that have been for the past year or so.
Yeah.
So really, even though interest rates went up slightly after the election, they're still lower than they were last year at this time.
It's still, today is what, the 12th?
Yeah, 13th.
Is it the 13th? As of today, it is 6.9.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and so what we're doing is given those incentives. I don't think this is shutting off, but I'm going to keep touching that. There we go. Okay, that distracted me.
I know. So all the incentives basically that the builders are offering, really what's really important from a buyer standpoint that they're going to look at least if they have, I'll say, at least if they have a good agent and a good lender talking to them, is they're going to probably look at what their payment is, right? Because that's the biggest struggle for people. Rent, buying, what's my payment? So if they have a payment at 6.9%, but someone's offering $10,000 in concessions, that could buy their interest rate down.
Yeah, it could be like 5 or 5.9, maybe a whole point.
Yeah.
And that's why when, like, I have a couple listings because that before the election that have been sitting there. And so we're having these conversations. Okay, let's lower the price. Instead of lowering the price, okay, let's lower the price and let's give some concessions or possibly more pay for the buyer's agent. So there's all these strategies in play right now.
So there's so many. We could do 12 podcasts on the strategies that I go through in a buyer consultation.
And then you wait a month and we're going to change all those strategies again. So that's why it's important to stay up to date. Like if you're watching this podcast a year from now, no, forget it.
It's going to be totally different.
Yeah. So you want to really sit down with your agent and walk through this whole process. What's happening? They should be able to come in with numbers for you. Here's your neighborhood or surrounding neighborhoods. Here's what things have sold for. Here's your competition. Because remember, you guys have to sell this to 2 people. You got to buy it. You got to sell it to the buyer and you got to sell it to the appraiser.
That's the biggest one that I think people don't always realize.
Yeah.
The buyer is actually the easy part. That's easy. Even if you're on the market for 3 months and you've got 120 showings and this is the easiest part. The hard part is the appraiser because you got to convince him that your house is worth what they're buying it for.
It's not funny, but it's funny. I just thought remember when we're going through COVID and everything went, everybody's buying houses because interest rates went, so these poor appraisers, I feel so bad for them because they couldn't keep up with it. Because then at this point, here's what your purchase price was, right? And here's what the buyers are paying, and the comps are still here. And so the appraisers are like, we can't do this. I mean, things were jumping 35% from last year to this year when it was COVID, and the appraisers are trying to justify it, and it should be what the buyers are willing to pay. But then remember, the appraisers are working for the lenders, and the lenders are not going to lend money on something they don't feel will that's valued less. And so the buyers were having to pay the difference.
It's called gapping the appraisal.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I'm at least seeing a lot of that on the listing side now. People are like, okay, it's been 2, 3, 4 years. I didn't even really like my house when I bought it. I just had to get over here. I had to buy something.
That might be you.
Yeah. And now we're looking at trying to sell their home, and sometimes the equity's there and sometimes it's not.
Yeah. Well, I have found, I agree with you. I have found if you're having a very spendy house, it's okay.
Yes.
But in a 350 to 400 during the peak of the
Yes.
market, because we had that little bump because interest rates went up last year and we had some price corrections. That's the only thing that we're finding is that's why you got to find out how much equity you have in your house, because that also determines, I've got some people that have zero equity. They're like, well, how do I pay a buyer's agent when I have zero equity?
Yes.
So
Exactly.
it may not be that time to sell right now.
Yep.
But anyways, do you have anything to wrap this up?
Yeah. The best thing you can do for you and for selling your home in Idaho is to call us.
True. If you want to sell your house in Idaho, in Eagle, Meridian, Boise, Treasure Valley,
Yes.
Ada County, Canyon County, Boise County, we do all those counties. But
Yeah.
anyways, so we look forward to seeing you on our next podcast. And don't forget to like, comment, and share.
Yes.
And subscribe, because our subscribers are getting gift cards. We have drawings, and we don't want you to lose out on that. So we'll see you at the
And
next.
she's about to reload on gift cards here in just a minute.
Yeah. So we'll see you on the next podcast.
Bye.
Bye.